Let's use transitions to make a sort of fancy click button or a hover button of some kind. I'm going to call it a hover box. So let's start here by putting a div with a class of unit on it. And I'm going to use this so that it controls the width of the button itself. So the button can be sort of any width we want it to be. So let's put an href in here since we want it to be a clickable thing. And let's put a class on it. Class equals hover box. So now inside of this, we want a few different things. The first thing I think we want is we want to have an image. So let's go image, src equals images/Jupyter. And it doesn't need an alt because we're going to give it some text in here like that. And then maybe we need to put, let's put, I don't know, an h2 in here with Jupyter on it like that. All right, so we've got our bits of information in here, and now we're going to style them a little bit. So first I'm going to target the unit because it's going to be the controller of width. So I'll just put a width on it of, let's say, 400 pixels, and I'll go margin 0 auto to get it into the center like that. And now I'll target hover box. And since it's an A tag, it needs to have display block so we can do things to it and make it big. So I'm going to add display block to it. And now I will also target the hover box image, and let's make it big too. So we'll go display block and width of 100%. So let's see what we get. Good. All right, so let's start. Maybe I want to give this a border radius of 50%, like that. And I'll also have to have overflow hidden on here so I can chop the corners of the image off. So now I've got sort of a circle, and you can see it's an oval right now because the text down here is inside it also. So let's target hover box h2 and say position absolute. Now, as soon as I set this to position absolute, I need something to be relative. So that makes sense for this to be relative because it's the parent. Position relative, like that. All right, so now we've got our circle here for our hover box. Let me also put maybe a box shadow on it. So I don't want an offset in those directions. Let's say I want a blur radius of 4px, and then I want it to be 10px wide. So let's just put a color on it here for now. Let's grab one of these colors from Jupyter. That brown looks nice right there. Okay. All right, so we've got a box shadow on here, and it's circular because, well, we're using border radius. Okay, so let's position the H2 into a better place. So I want it to have, say, a top of 10px, and I want it to stretch. So let's go bottom of 10px, and let's do left of 10px and right of 10px. So I'm going to stretch it to fill the whole thing that it's inside of. So it looks kind of like that. We can't really tell though, so let's give it a background color. Again, let's grab one of these colors in here, maybe one of these blues, like that one. All right. So I do want that to be semi-transparent, so I'm going to use it in here. Whoops. So I want to get the RGBA value. All right. .5. So where does that get it? All right, like that. Let's add the border radius of 50% onto this also to give us a circle like that. And well, it's not quite filling the whole space for some reason. Why is that? Oh, probably because it has a margin on it, because it's a heading. So margin 0. There we go. Okay. Now let's change the color to white and do text align center like that. But still, I would like Jupyter to be down here in the center here. So there's a bunch of different ways that I can do this, but the way that makes sense to me would be to just wrap this in a span, and then I could use transform. So I could do hover box Span, I'll do position absolute on it. So top will be 50% and left will be 50%, like that. But then I need to transform it back to the center. So we'll go transform, translate, -50%, -50%, like that. All right, so we've got that in the center. It could use to be a little bit bigger. Font size 3 rem. All right, so here's my layout here that I want to execute. Now what I want to do is that when you hover on it, I want Jupyter to be hidden by default, like the word Jupyter, and when you hover, I want it to sort of come into place. And I'm thinking it'd be nice if it sort of got bigger as it came into place. So when we start here, I want the starting position of Jupyter to have a scale of 0. So it's completely hidden like that. So you can't see it at all. Then when you hover, so that would be hover box :hover, and we want to target the H2. So when we hover on hover box, we're going to do something to H2, which is we're going to transform its scale back to 1 like that. So you can see when we hover, it comes into place. All that's missing now is a transition. Let's go all 200 milliseconds, ease out. So it should grow in now because we added the transition on it. And let's do one more transition, maybe to the shadow. So I want the shadow to get a little bit bigger too. The shadow is directly on the hover box itself. So we can go .hoverbox :hover. And I'm just going to paste the shadow in there like that, because really I just want to change it to be a little bit bigger. So let's make it 20 pixels instead. All right, so there the shadow's getting bigger, and all we need is transition. There's our transition, and now we have animated shadows and the words Jupyter, I don't know, growing in when you hover on the planet.